Welcome. It's another day and it's another episode of the AFCON Daily Show on Citi TV. My name is Nathan Carl. This show is proudly sponsored by Bet Power. If you are a punter and you want to win big on your bets, Bet Power is a platform where you can play all your games. They've got a variety of games for you. The best odds, the biggest wins, and the biggest payout. So that's why Bet Power should be your very, very good friend. That's why they are sponsoring the show, and we thank them so much for coming along with us on the AFCON Daily Show. We are virtually at the end because now we know who will be contesting the final and who will be playing in what some people call the losers final on Saturday. A lot more of that a little later. But like I said, thank you so much for joining us. We're on DSTV channel 363, so we appreciate the fact that you've taken time out to enjoy this show with us. We have a lot to unpack. The two semi-finals, we'll discuss them in depth, look at all the various angles and all of that. So if you have any comments, send in those comments on the WhatsApp number on your screen, and we'd love to hear from you between now and the end of the show. We'll take a very quick break. When we come back, my guests will be locked in and ready to go to give you another episode of the AFCON Daily Show. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Come back. So that's Kudomato by Tom C. Now, officially, this was not the theme song for the competition, but it became the song that the whole of Cote d'Ivoire was vibing to and jamming to during the AFCON. So Tom C has a hit he can, I'm sure he'll get plaques he can put on as well. So everybody who went to Cote d'Ivoire, whether you are Ghanaian, Nigerian, whatever, everybody knew this song because you met it up close and personal. Let me introduce my guest, Kwame Bafo. So Kwame, how are you doing?
Hi. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Kwame Safo is also here.
Hello, Nathan.
I'm sure you both experienced Kudomato.
So my playlist, every morning I listen to it.
I see. That's it. That's the Francophone influence. Trust me, when you live in that environment for a while, that when the songs stay with you, and it carries on. You tend to like, their music. That's even coming from personal experience. Guys, nice to have you here. I've got two Kwames in the studio. The other day I had two Yaos. I don't know what will follow. But before we even... Okay, let's get into the Opta data. So yesterday we shared some very interesting data from Opta. They were looking at the teams who would make the semi-final. Let's just refresh our memories and see who did they say would make the final. Well, it turns out Opta wasn't lying after all. Yeah. Nigeria, 41, almost 42% if you like, and Cote d'Ivoire, 21%. These two countries are in the final of the AFCON. DR Congo and South Africa. DR Congo was close, but it looks like they couldn't make it there. And I think the scoreline between themselves and the Ivorians kind of speaks to that closeness. But South Africa, they are distant fourth with only about 17% chance of making the final. And this played out just as we thought it would. Let me take initial comments from the guys. Then we'll get into the highlights. Let me start off with you. Your thoughts on what Opta said? It looks like their prediction did come true.
Yeah, it actually did. I wasn't surprised, actually. I mean, it's the final a lot of people were anticipating. So I'm not surprised that Opta rightly predicted. And if you look at how things have played out, you clearly see that it's even in a certain order. Obviously, Nigeria are definitely going to be top, looking at the way they have seen out the group stages, seen out the competition at this point from the knockout stages till now. They've showed a lot more experience, a lot more quality at various phases of their play, and you see the way they carry themselves. They are not that flamboyant. They are just an efficient team that find moments in games to be able to do what they have to do. Ivory Coast, on the other hand, I mean, they've survived a lot. We just can't, go into detail as to exactly what has gone through the minds of the people. I mean, from the group stages, losing 2 games in the group stages, it had to take the last game of the group stages to determine their fate. What they lived through the Senegal game up until the Mali game, and had a very comfortable game yesterday, actually. So I'm not surprised at all. They are the host nation, and in tournaments like this, where the hosts, are in for this long, is actually the organizer's dream, because you still have the euphoria, you still have the energy the town is buzzing as we speak, and that's what you expect. So I'm not surprised at Opta's predictions up until this point. And these are heavyweights. A lot of people actually believed the Ivory Coast would get to the final based off the fact that the quality of players they had, and also they were the host nation and all of that. So for Nigeria, well, they've gone into the tournament and we've got to see the quality that they are made of.
I see. Safo?
I think on Tuesday when we were here, I was saying that I felt the percentage difference between Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and the percentage of especially South Africa. I felt South Africa should place over DR Congo in the percentage-wise, because I felt like the Nigeria-South Africa game was not really a given like that to Nigeria. I was telling the producer of the before we came live that South Africa were always going to get a goal in that game. I didn't see a world in which Nigeria was going to keep a clean sheet. And from what we saw yesterday, it was a little bit closer.
Okay.
There were just moments away from it being a South Africa final. So, yes, Susu was on, and he thought that it's because it's more like a given that Nigeria will get to the final. That reduces South Africa's percentage. But I felt like from what we've seen through the group stages, yes, Nigeria are the likely favorite. But when it comes to, in comparison with DR Congo and South Africa, I think South Africa stood a better chance of getting into the final against Nigeria than DR Congo. And we will talk about that in the game because yesterday DR Congo didn't show up at all.
Okay. We'll get to their performance in a bit. I guess that's where we'll start. Cote d'Ivoire, the host nation, taking on the Leopards of DRC. Let's get the highlights and then we zoom into the detailed conversation on that one. Let's enjoy the highlights, like Cote d'Ivoire versus Democratic Republic of Congo. All right, like Cote d'Ivoire getting to the final of the 2023 AFCON. When they hosted back in 1984, it didn't really go well for them in that competition. Many years on, about 40 or so years on, they host and make the final. They host and make the final. I cannot remember the last time a team hosted and got to the final. I think Egypt 2006. Yeah. Apart from that, host nations don't do well. Ghana did not reach its own final. Angola, neither did Equatorial Guinea and Gabon, neither did South Africa, neither did Gabon, neither did Tunisia, Egypt,
yes.
And then you had the last one in Cameroon. They finished semis and So yeah, they are here. Let me start off with it's a crazy ride.
Yeah.
At a point, it did not look like they would be here, but 6 games after the opening game, they are here in the final.
I think they need a lot more commendation after all that they went through. Expectations were high, actually. People really felt that, okay, host nation is the Ivory Coast. It's a huge footballing nation in the world and also in Africa. Won the African Cup of Nations twice. There was a whole
four finals,
1-2. So there was a whole generation. They were coming back of a generation that was known as the golden generation, the Didier Drogbas, and who couldn't win it until that hybrid of, just a few remnants of that generation and a mix of some other people won it in 2015 for them. So coming into the competition once more, they felt that, okay, this is our time. We are hosting this competition in our home soil. They've gone through all sort of emotions, from winning the first game to losing the second game against Nigeria, and also losing disgracefully to Equatorial Guinea in that game on home soil. And they had to wait till that Morocco game to seal their qualification to the next stage of the competition. So they've gone through it. If you look at the emotional roller coaster that these Ivorians have gone through, you'd really expect that it means a lot to them getting to the final. And it's like I said in my initial thought, it's every organizer's dream that the host nation gets into the final. Going into the game yesterday, aside the first game they played against Guinea-Bissau, this is the second most comfortable performance that I've seen of the Ivorians. Yes. All the other, even this one, the first 15 minutes, they had to. They seem not to be good starters in games, and they are a team that seems to grow in games. From the Senegal game to the game against Mali, I felt it was more of a country trying to show a lot more fight than it's been a lot more tactical. This time around, you could see that they wanted to be a lot more tactical. Yes, have the fight and other things in them, but the coach was playing to a particular part and made very good use of his midfield this time around. And I don't know if you've noticed, ever since Fai took over, Sangare hasn't been a mainstay.
Yes.
It's been more of Jean-Michel Seri. I mean, he's prioritizing a lot more experience and having a player who has that nous, that awareness and understands the role very well. And anytime that the Ivory Coast have been on top or have dominated, it has been Seri being the person orchestrated. And that was a monstrous performance from Frank Kessie yesterday.
Yeah.
He was everywhere. And Seko Fofana. So it looks like that midfield balance that they've been looking for, they are achieving it that now with Fofana, with Kessie, and then Seri. So it's a mix of experience, a mix of technicality, a mix of grit, like everything you need in that midfield, you would get it in there. And I'm not so surprised that they were able to, at some point pin the Congolese in their own half. Didn't give them a lot more opportunity to be able to, come into the game as they would expect. So I wasn't so surprised that the way the Ivorians played yesterday. It was a more comfortable performance. Halle should have gotten a hat-trick in that game. I mean, looking at the chances that came his way, I mean, that cross from Singo in the first half where he missed that by inches, and also had another opportunity after he had scored the goal to even double the tally. I mean, he had a lot more chances in the game yesterday. But one key commendation I would give to the Ivorians have been their fullbacks. It was when Singo came in for Sergio Rier right after the first half of that game, because Rier was on a yellow card, the coach didn't want to risk it and brought in Singo. He's been amazing. And for me, one of the best left back I've seen in the tournament has been Conan.
Yeah.
He's been amazing.
Really
efficient. He's everywhere. His energy levels are always high, and he's one of the players that typifies that fight that you see in the Ivorian team. Almost everywhere, pacing around the flanks, and also doing very well in tracking back. Getting in there, sending in crosses. He's been amazing for the Ivorians, and I think they've showed a lot more quality in this game against the Congolese. We would be expecting to see a lot more of that in the final, where it wouldn't just be an emotional game; it will be a lot more tactical from the coach. MS5 will be looking forward to that.
Safo, your thoughts on Cote d'Ivoire? They went past the Congolese by a goal to nil. They are in the final, and it did not look like they were going to get here, but they are in the final.
So an interesting thing about that game is this was the first time they were back in Abidjan after being defeated by Equatorial Guinea. They went to, I think, Yamoussoukro to play Senegal, and then went to Bouaké to face Mali. And you would think that it will get to them because the Abidjan crowd are more expectant. They are like the Accra of Cote d'Ivoire. They are more expectant. They will go to the stadium, they will cheer you on, but they get easily pissed off when you're not performing well and all of that. And the question was whether they were going to be able to overcome this performance whereby everything is going for them, but nothing seems to be working. Because in the first half, I was getting the vibe of, and Congo were set up to play the same way as Equatorial Guinea played. Not really attacking, trying to hit you on the break, leaving the ball for the Ivorians. They had chances, they were hitting the woodwork, they had opportunities, and it was not working for them. So I almost tweeted out that I hope this is not a repetition of what happened against Equatorial Guinea, because the truth of the matter is if they were not finding the back of the net as the game wore on in the dying embers, the Congolese would have had more belief. And talking about Conan, there was one situation whereby Congo were through on. I think it was 2 against 3 or 2 against 1, something of that sort, and the awareness and wherewithal of the fullback to come back and then salvage the whole situation and make a potential expected goal or dangerous situation a lot calmer is something which is very commendable. They don't show you that in the highlights. They don't put that in the statistics, but that's like the eye test. And it shows you how putting players in positions, putting players who are willing, putting players who have the drive and desire can get you results. Another player I would like to mention who didn't even feature in today's game was Diakite. he was not really a starter. Put in a good shift against Senegal, came off the bench against Mali to even get the winning goal, and because of that couldn't even feature because he did something silly and took off his shirt. But what such a player gives you is the drive and the momentum to bring you this far. And truth of the matter is, the moment they beat Senegal, I said they were going to get to that. As a matter of fact, I predicted they are going to win it because it's just that belief that gives you to beat. Because truth is, take Morocco aside, and even Morocco were not really that convincing throughout this tournament. Senegal was very convincing. If Ivory Coast had not taken them out, we'll probably be having a Nigeria-Senegal final because there's nobody I don't think Senegal couldn't have beaten in this tournament. But for them to have that mentality to go this far, another effective thing is players who were injured and they still believed that they could get this far to get them started. Sebastien Haller, when we were in Cote d'Ivoire, was someone the Ivorian population were very expectant of to come to the team's aid. But because of injuries, they were not getting him to perform and all of that. And the trust and the way they were able to manage his minutes, same with Simon and Dingra, they all had knocks. But the way they were able to manage their minutes, and you could see that in yesterday's game, why the Ivorian population were very expectant of these players because whenever they come in, they put in a very good shift. And I think things seem to be working for the Ivorians. You have a coach who understands what he wants to do, how he wants to play, how he wants his team to be shaped up. And this is a coach, when he was coming in, you see, Nigeria and Ivory Coast have a very similar pattern. Both didn't trust in their coach, but Ivorians own are more messier in the sense that this guy, we don't even have any belief in him. He didn't even achieve anything when he was a player. What can he do? I remember my Ivorian friends say, "Oh, Isha." But when and that's the tournament football. That's when the tournament football comes in because it's a limited amount of game. It's about how you get players to play in a certain way you want. And I would expect that final to be even tastier and not going to be as easy as Nigeria had it in the first encounter because the Ivorian team are different. Like Frank Kessie called them, they are zombies, they are dead. So there's nothing they can do that will shake them up. And it was a brilliant performance yesterday. They had it very comfortable.
You are talking about the Congolese, and I think I'll start with you and come to you. You're talking about the Congolese. You said they did not show up yesterday. What was wrong with them in your estimation?
I think sometimes we underestimate the euphoria in the 12th supporter. And sometimes psychologically, this is not to sound disrespectful, but psychologically, I think certain teams are okay to get where they are. I think the ambition was not there. I think the Ivorian midfield, because their game plan was so predictable. It was about how to, and that's why we spoke on Tuesday whether they would start Silas, because I feel like that's the game that they needed to start Silas. Because against Guinea, he was the guy making the runs behind the Guinean backline when they were on the counter. But things didn't even see. Even the clearest chance they got was even offside, and even that one they failed to bury that chance. So the Ivorians, it's just everything coming together for the Ivorians. The supporters, the moment getting to them, tactics just not working. They just didn't show up. They didn't give the Ivorians a lot of opportunity. I think their XG, we will not even get one. They barely had a clear expected goal in that game. So I think tactically, the Ivorians had figured them out. And I think Ivory Coast being in that position where you've had a team who killed you on the counter, I think, like I was saying, we'll get to the South African game and people learning lessons from previous games. I think the Ivorians had learned their lessons from previous games about having control and preventing the opposition from using that control against you to weaken you. I think they learned from that. And tactically yesterday, they limited the Congolese as much as possible. And I'll ask a question. If the Congolese possess certain type of players, certain physical type of players who could really cause havoc, do not stop running for the 90 minutes, maybe the story could have been different. And I keep on thinking of someone like an Osimhen, who even though nothing is going for them, he's still persistent and a pest and a parasite to that backline. I don't think they didn't possess any player of that quality yesterday who could really trouble the backline of Ivory Coast.
The occasion mattered. It was a huge crowd. I think that's the biggest stadium in the country now, so the crowd was huge. That's one. But if you look at the Congolese, that's how they've been playing almost throughout the tournament. making very good use of Johan Wissa and then Meshach earlier. Sitting back, trying very hard to hit you on the counter and all of that. So I wasn't so surprised looking at them. At some point, I commented during the game that on paper, the Nigerians look a lot better than the two teams that we are watching now. If on the balance of things, because the Congolese won a game in regulation time in the last game they played. They don't look like a team that forces out a win. Okay. I mean, they play up to a certain level and they get very comfortable and they get stuck. But this was crunch time. This was a game that you would have expected them to, go in there, give of their best, and this was the final on the table for you, and they found a way not to show up in this game. Right? I mean, the occasion mattered, but this is how Congo has played throughout the tournament.
So you feel that they couldn't raise it to another level?
Exactly. At this point, you need to push up until a certain point. Okay, this is the final on the table. Let's go a step further. But they kept playing the same game that we've been seeing them play.
And what would you put down to a lack of quality, variety? You mentioned the occasion. What do you think was going on?
It's just that mental strength or that mentality of let's push ourselves to the next level. Yes, everything is going against us. But they kept playing the same game throughout. There wasn't a point where they accelerated in the game. They had to inject some momentum. It was just the same Congo. And watching the game, I said all Ivory Coast needed to do was get that goal, and it was done. And that was it.
So because after the first one goal was going to,
and that was it. And you see, there is one thing about the Ivorians many people are not noticing: is their goalkeeper. He looks to me like a Fiero.
Yeah,
like
shaky. He's
very, very
not
shaky. Confident enough. Shaky. I saw that in the Equatorial Guinea game. Yeah. I mean, there was a ball that he punched directly to the Equatorial Guineans to just have a go at them. See that first 15 minutes, how he was handling his box in that corner situation, where he fluffed the ball. I mean, I think his host nation advantage, any referee would have given. Oh, that's true.
Really?
Any referee would have.
I disagree. I feel like he caught the ball.
But like I felt
shaky
that
enough to
give them confidence to do that. Go to the Premier League. This ball would have been given us without any recourse to anything. But I mean, he lacks a bit more confidence. He seemed to be growing into the national team bit by bit. So he will be key in that. But
just to put things into context, Fofana just switched nationality not too long ago. I think about
6 months.
Not too long ago. Very, very recent. So this is very new.
New, a whole
very
atmosphere.
New to him. This playing in Africa in front of a crowd, host nation. He was France's under 21 goalkeeper. So this is very new.
And it's understandable. It's understandable. And the occasion has been huge. And he's handled himself well, but when you observe carefully, you see
this is something the Nigerians can pick on.
I won't be surprised if taking note of it.
So just finally, as for the Ivorians, they've made it. I just want us to wrap up on the Congolese, and then we'll get to Edwin on the touch. There's a question I keep asking everybody this week, and I'll ask Safi, and I'll come back to you, Kwame. You are the Congolese. You've played this game. You wake up this morning. How do you think they will be feeling? Will they look at it with regret, or they'll say, "Look, we are here. Semis, we'll take it. Fight for a third place."
I think in any team, irrespective of their performance, would think that we should have done better. We could have done better, but we have a third place match to play. Even the same for the South Africans. Back home, they are saying, the boys did well. I mean, Congo, when was the last time Congo got to this place?
It's in 2015.
So I think 2015. Yeah, I think so.
Congo are not habitual visitors of the semi-finals. I feel like what they would have left for them is play the third place and give a good account of themselves. They remind me of Mali. I remember there was a point, Ghana used to play Mali in a lot of third, fourth place because Mali would always show up. And Ghana would just be like, we didn't get to the final, so you can do whatever. I feel like they would be disappointed. But looking at the way the game panned out, it's not a moment where they'll be banging their heads against the wall that we could have done this, if anybody, South Africa should be the ones feeling that because they were very close yet so far. That would rather hurt, that would give you nightmares as compared to when you barely showed up. You barely had OMG moment or anything like that. So I think they would be disappointed.
So you feel like fairly satisfied?
Yeah, but there will be that disappointment. There's always room for improvement. There was always room for them to do better. But I don't think they would go with banging their heads on the wall or people crying, like how you had Lamine Camara crying. Because, those are people who came very close and knew where their ceiling was. So I think that's how the Congolese will feel.
Okay.
Anytime you get to a semi-final, it's another step. Just some 2 games away to the trophy. So if you fail to capitalize on the moment, it's definitely a huge loss for you. They should have taken their chances. Okay. Unfortunately, they didn't. They will be hugely disappointed.
Based on the observation you made, that you just felt they kind of played within themselves.
Yeah, and that's very disappointing. I mean, they have quality. We've mentioned the quality here a lot more times. They have experience, and they had a very good coach on the bench. So you would have expected that, when you are in the semi-final of any competition, there is no guarantee that the next competition you are going to hit. It's an opportunity to push yourself to the level to get it. So I feel they'll be very, very disappointed not getting themselves into the final. It's a missed opportunity for me.
All right, we'll see how the Congolese will fare. Their coach, Sebastian Desailly, he's been on the continent for a while, so I'm sure the suitors will come calling, and all of that. Talking about suitors, just on a side note, the reports are that Gambia's coach, Tom Saintfiet, who I think has what it takes to coach the Black Stars. I hear he's putting his application. I hear the FA also talking to the
Amin Abdul.
Formerly of Comoros. He's still with Comoros, right?
No, Madagascar.
He's Mauritania now. So we'll see. All kinds of names. I heard over whatever number of coaches had. We hear that story
all the time.
We beg them. It's okay. They should take their time.
They should take their time.
You see, I know that. Just to comment a bit on that, with Tom Saintfiet, I heard this is not his first time applying for this job, and the kind of football he plays is something I think we are not seeing in our Black Stars for quite some time. I think he's more attacking. He's able to work with younger players, and I feel like that's what we have right now in our core.
He just knows how to
But you see, one thing I've learned too about these things is I will not overly comment on coaches coming in, because sometimes the coach is coming in, you like this coach. He has a good CV. He's supposed, and he comes to Ghana. I don't know. Things fall apart and interference. I'm not interfering. Someone is reciting the Quran. Everything is
the only, and I'm saying this, the only successful expert we've had in the world is Avram Grant.
Yes.
And his first crack at the AFCON 2015. And it worked for him. It was in 2017 that now, because he had been a while, the familiarity developed and he had all kinds of problems. But I think largely he did well. He understood his team, shaped the team well, and boom, we're in an AFCON final months after he took over. Let's get to the touchpad. Edwin Kwakofi is here. Edwin, how are you doing?
Hello, Nathan.
I know. I've seen the internal WhatsApp messages. Some people have been saying all kinds of things. Don't mind them.
They are
questioning your insights.
It's fine. We had a very good game yesterday.
Okay. Just your own thoughts on the tie before we get into the analysis.
Well, I thought this was probably the best game Ivory Coast had played. Offensively, they were really, really good. Probably should have scored more than they did, the one they did, and we'll get to that soon. But also defensively, apart from a few shaky moments early in the game, midway through the game, I thought they handled the pressure really, really well from their fans, even from DR Congo, who didn't show up on the day, but it was largely because Ivory Coast set up in a way that it didn't allow them to show up. And I think it's good for them to put in their best performance before the final against Nigeria. They need that momentum to go into the final, taking on probably the best team at this tournament this year. So it's good for them that their players have the feeling that they dominated the game, have a feeling that they deserved to win a game, and going into the final, they'll probably fancy their chances a lot with their fans screaming in the stands and their players coming off a very, very good win.
I hope they are able to handle the pressure situation. Of course, it's an exciting time, but beneath all the excitement, now you are here. So there's that expectation. And if there's one person I think about, is Ms. Fine. And his own history with because his run with the Ivorian under-20 was horrible. Yeah. People didn't like him. Now he guides the senior team to an AFCON, I said World Cup, AFCON final, and we'll see. But Edwin, I'm sure you want to highlight a few interesting things from that semi-final.
We mentioned the Ivory Coast and how they could have scored a few more goals. But in these couple of clips, I would like to show you what they did in the game against the DR Congo first few clips, you can see that how they set up, they wanted to attack from the wings. The wing play was very important to them. And I'd like to stop it here. We talked about them missing Sebastien Haller for much of the tournament. And this is why he is very important. He's a good striker, first place. He has a lot of quality. But he's also very tall. I know that's not the strongest part of his game, but he's still a tall player, very imposing, has aerial ability, and can dominate in the air. So this provided an outlet for the Ivory Coast players. Previously in the tournaments, they used to not focus too much on wing play through the middle, try and get into good positions before taking their shots. Now they have so many options they can go to. And here you can see Haller. Let's pick orange for Haller. Haller making the run. In previous games, you wouldn't have that. You probably wouldn't have a striker who is determined to get into the box and have wingers or fullbacks who are determined to put the ball into the box for him. But this changed in this game. Once he started, they knew they had an outlet. He delayed the cross until Haller was close enough to the box. Obviously, the ball didn't get to him. And this is the importance of wingers too. They know when to come into the box and add to the striker and make it a double, maybe add to the threats that the central striker provides. And Adingra is one case of that. His header was not the best, but at least he got into that position. So having those two players, Haller and Adingra, both of whom missed significant portions of the tournament for the Ivory Coast, was very important for them in this game because both were cool, were very good in this game. Another move starting from the outside. And over here, the DRC picked up on the fact that the Ivory Coast were looking to aim for Haller, looking to put balls into the box as much as possible. So what they did was they overloaded the right side whenever it got to the wings. And they put a couple of players. They ensured they had a couple of players behind or in front of Haller to prevent him from getting a run on goal. Also had one player in front of Adingra, I believe, to prevent him from getting a run-up and goal. So this was a proper setup. But then what it does is opens up the possibility for the Ivory Coast to break through that defense with short passes. Now they have so many options that the DRC have to think about what exactly they are going to do in what particular moment. So now they can pass it through the middle. The ball eventually gets to Frank Kessie, and he takes the shot immediately. Over here, I don't think there are any other options available to him. It was a decent shot, and it hits the post. So a few options there.
I'm happy you said it was decent because, like Coach Nimley always says, if a shot hits the post, it's a poorly taken shot. The goal is an immovable object. So.
But the interesting thing is, let's go back. The interesting thing is he is under severe pressure from the defender right here. Yes. So even getting the shot off in the first place is very important. Second of all, it's on his weaker side, his left side, and he still manages to get it on target, past the goalkeeper and onto the post. Even though the pole doesn't move, the goalpost doesn't move, it's still a decent effort enough. Once you hit any part of this target, you could get a rebound. If he was on his toes, he could make the run. If Haller was probably on his toes a little earlier, he could get in on the rebound if it was closer to goal. But a decent enough effort from Frank Kessie there. So chances for the Ivory Coast could have scored more than the one they got. We'll get to the Haller goal now, the goal that they did eventually score in the game against the DRC. And over here, I'd like to blame, first of all, these two players, these two defenders right here. Let's start it over, slow it down so we take a move. There are two players two players marking the crosser of the ball. And he is right-footed. When a player is right-footed on that side of the pitch, you do not show him onto his right foot. You don't allow him to make a run onto his right foot. Show him onto his weaker foot. Allow him to go back. And most of all, you do not allow him to put the ball into the back of into the box.
Okay.
What they did was these two players did not offer enough protection. First of all, this defender should understand that he has a teammate on this side. He should not be showing him on the outside. And he does exactly that. Allows the Ivorian to get past him and then put a ball into the box. That was poor defending on his part. Secondly, our defender right here misses the ball. Poor timing. So he is also at fault. But the goalkeeper, I think he is most at fault in this move. First of all, you are not the tallest goalkeeper. Understood. You are not the tallest goalkeeper. The ball is inside the box. I'll get it if he was off his line significantly, if the ball was probably closer to the center line, closer to the middle of their half. The ball is in your penalty box. And you are not the tallest. You need to be as close to your line as possible so that you can be able to cover as much of the space as you can. He steps off his line, and then Halle gets a lucky bounce, so he is unable to reach the ball. Had he been on his line, he'd probably been in a better position to at least tip it over the bar, even if he couldn't grab it. Tip it onto the bar. Anything else, look at how far he is from his line. Just look at this, how far he is from his line. He should be right on his line. There's no reason for him to be stepping up and trying to claim the ball. The fact that the ball was so far away from his goal made it impossible for him to reach in any case, to come out and reach. So having noticed that, he probably should have stepped back onto his line, made himself a little bigger, knowing his deficiencies, to be able to save that ball. Of course, he wouldn't have expected Halle to hit it into the ground and up over him, but as a goalkeeper, you need to plan for these things, and he has to accept the blame for this goal in particular. Poor goal for him to concede, and eventually ended up costing his country a place in the AFCON final.
Interesting stuff. The guys, thoughts? I look at the goalkeeper.
I struggle to blame the goalkeeper so much because the thing you do when a cross is sent into the box would be to move an inch, some few inches close. I mean, if you are anticipating or trying to, get yourself into position, because it will be very bad on your part to just stay on your line sometimes.
No, but I kind of disagree because I don't think the cross is coming into the mix. If you look at it, the cross
was going outside.
Yeah, it was going away. Okay.
I mean, it was a quick cross, so you are like, okay, let me just move some steps to see where the crosses gets it into. So, but it's the way the ball bounced. It bounced and it went very high before it dipped into the post.
But at that point, if you are on your line, I think you're on your line, you tip that.
I mean, yeah, I get a fair criticism, but it's not something I would.
If you run it again, if you
it's
run
100% his fault.
It's 100%.
It's 100%.
Right, and then now you watch the sequence. I think if he's on his post, I think he's on his line.
If you are coming out, it means you are getting something on the ball. This is nowhere close to you.
You see,
because again, if, for example, the reason why I kind of disagree with you is that look at Alai's body language. Alai takes a shot, and you can tell that as he takes it, he knows that this is a bad shot. He knows I haven't connected well. Look at his reaction as he looks. He's not even expectant of anything.
Because clearly it wasn't meant. He wasn't so sure.
Yes.
But I mean, it's the way the ball hits the ground, goes very high, and gets into the post. So I somewhat agree, but I struggle to blame him. That's the point I'm making. I struggle to blame him so much because some of these things, I mean, it's very difficult. I mean,
I think the keeper. And you see, we are talking about keepers who have not been convincing in this tournament. It's also one keeper who has not convinced me. So it's called impasse. Because the truth is, when the cross comes in, As a keeper, you are coming out because you are going to parry the ball or get something on the ball. Okay. It's nowhere close your box. You shouldn't be this far out.
I mean, it's not so far out, Safo.
But he's still not on his
not
line.
so far.
I think for your height.
If you ask me, Kwame, when you run that, I want you to watch what he does.
Yes.
As he gets ready to make
As he gets ready to make the save, instead of moving back, he actually approaches the ball.
Okay, you let it play. Kwame, watch it carefully. Watch the
for a bit,
goalkeeper's
and
feet.
then you take a look at
Right?
the goalkeeper.
So the ball, yes, cross comes in.
Cross comes in.
Ale touches it. What,
And then he moves forward instead of
So
backing
you see-
off and saving
Uh-huh.
it. He
The bouncing
expected.
ball. It's the way the
He
ball
didn't
bounces.
expect it, but as a keeper to, like we say, be more proactive than reactive.
Some of these are reflex, some are quick actions that, I mean, you just can't. You just can't.
I get you. The reason why I hold him responsible for, if you ask me, the entire the chain of decisions, starting from the fact that he's at his near post, he's watching the action. The cross comes. If the cross is bending towards you, you can say that, okay, let me step out a little, or it's going into the mixer.
Yeah.
This cross is going far. It's not even the cross that's bending. The cross is hit hard. It's flying across his area. So he's at the first post. He shuffles. So if you ask me, just stay on your line, turn and look at the action. He goes off his line. Ale, again, look at how much Ale has to do.
Okay.
Step backwards, turn, swivel. And then the hop, I don't know. I mean,
Someone, okay, I was a goalkeeper, so that's why I'm being a bit more biased.
Yes,
You know why?
Okay.
See, let's just look at the action again. Right?
Okay, so we are looking at the
So when
Ale.
the crosser of the
No,
ball, Gardel,
Yes.
gets to the byline, he's at the first post,
Okay.
anticipating maybe first a cutback coming in, so he could perhaps dive and be the first to have the ball. Now, it comes out that it's a cross that is coming. He doesn't move too far away from the 16-yard box.
Of course.
He's just
he's still there.
some few yards away.
Right.
Yes. So he'll see. So he moves, trying to get to the middle.
I think
And then he
Trying to
approaches
get.
instead
So
of
you
backing.
watch it carefully. Trying to get to the middle.
Let me show you something. Here is fine. It's about his turning. He doesn't move in
So
a
trying to
straight
get to
line.
the middle.
He moves a little bit forward. Trying to get to the middle.
Trying to get to the middle, not be on the line, because the Halle shot could have been a very good connect.
Yeah, and it could have been.
It would have been a good connect where it would have been
So
a
he hits it-
middle.
yes, he hits it
So I
flat.
am flat, so I could go down easily, or I could go mid-air to be able to save it. But the bounce is the problem. And where he is, he's not too far from the line. That's why I'm saying that, yes, I get the point that we are all making here, but I struggle to put the whole blame
you
on him.
blame him.
Like,
You feel that he did.
yes, see, he's not too far. So, like, if Halle could have gotten a very good connect of the ball, it would have gone maybe mid-air for him to be able to dive very
We've
well.
seen
But the
instances.
bounce,
We've
feel
seen
that the bounce
instances.
changes everything. Okay,
We've seen
before I
instances
go
where
back to Edwin.
keepers are even on their line and they've been able to be chipped, and that's because
When you are on your line,
even on your line, and it's a Messi. Messi is the first person who made me see that. The thing is, when he was moving to the middle, yes, he's not that far off, but the moment where you are like a little bit forward, it means, and you are not the tallest goalkeeper. If this was a tall goalkeeper, the moment he's touching the ball, you don't move to the middle whilst moving forward at the same time, because if you see, his positioning was okay, but when he moved to the middle, I think first of all, the space to the left he wasn't really in the middle.
again,
and he was a little bit forward too.
Just hold it there. Just before the ball is kicked.
Let's go back to
He's
before.
not really in the middle.
I'm just trying to figure out his position as there. So his position now. So his position is in relation to where Halle is and what he's seeing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is where I come in with.
The
If
bounce.
Halle had a clean connect to the ball, depending on whether it's because it would have been a volley, so it would have been a bit high up, where he could probably dive cleanly and get it. But the ball hitting the ground and bouncing,
Yeah.
it's
I agree.
I
The reason
understand.
why, okay,
It's-
you
it's-
finish
it's
so that Edwin gets
it's
it. The reason why I fault the goalkeeper slightly in all of I can grant it. I'm with you up until this point, and I agree that he sees, he reacts, he readjusts his position and everything. This is where I have a problem with the goal. Edwin, you let the clip run, and I'll point out to you. So now he's trying to set his feet. He sets his feet. Good. Watch what he does. He sets his feet, hops, and that slight hop forward is the window that allows the bounce, I think, to beat him.
But we should not lose sight of the height one plus the action. It's a quick action. And he's not the tallest, like you guys say. He's not the tallest.
So I also think that also is a bit of a disadvantage.
Yes, it's
in
not the
that
tallest
position.
It's not the tallest.
So, for example, if he were tall, he makes up for
with his height.
Yeah, with the height.
This is hard.
And he hopped forward. He hopped forward.
Very,
Edwin, that's final thought. So again, you point out the goalkeeping. You say this is an error. He commits an error.
Very much an error in my opinion. First, the hop forward. And as a goalkeeper in this position, if you are anticipating this, you don't anticipate that Halle is going to take a shot. So what are you coming forward for? You anticipate that your defender has this clearly covered for. He's going to head it out. So him taking the step forward off his line, that was very unnecessary on his part. And then the extra step when the ball was hit, it gave, as you said, the window for the ball to bounce over his head.
I always say if there's something I'd love to do, it's like, if I were doing it, I'd find the goalkeeper and just ask him. Because I like to know his thought process and run him through. Because we do that for strikers and when they score goals, we say, oh, what was going on? Can you tell us your thought process? I'd love to know.
But an innocuous thing, and I don't think it was that innocuous because Edwin pointed that out. It's the ability of defenders to shepherd wingers out of their favorite foot. And we saw that yesterday in the Nigerian game. I think South Africa were on an Ajayi. It was basically a one-on-one. He was able to shepherd the player from the danger zone far to the end. And I think that's what two defenders couldn't do. They were easily beaten. And so it's just it was a mixture of errors from them. And they had it coming, to be very honest.
All right. Edwin, I'm sure we'll talk about South Africa.
Yes,
that's a lot to talk about. But guys, let's wrap it up on Cote d'Ivoire and DR Congo. Let me start off with you. The Ivorians are here, like we've established. They've gone round and round and round. They are here. How much of all of this will you credit to just tactical intelligence, player quality? Because away from everything, you need somebody to guide things from the line, and you need players to execute. If you had to, which players will you highlight and say that they've carried the Ivorians to this point?
Seko Fofana is one. I think we spoke extensively about him not being one of the guys the Ivorians really thought or had a very good connection with the Ivorian people and all of that. He showed a lot more commitment. He showed a lot more character, and tactically too, he has been very aware. I make reference to the game against Senegal. He was fantastic in that game, picking the ball from Seri, trying to move with the ball. And even the game against Mali, the number of times he tries to take a shot at a point where the goal that the Akiti had to score, it had to be his shot from outside the box. So he provides that extra man outside the box option to be able to take that shot and all that to confuse some of these opponents that they play against. And then looking at MS5, one of the key things he has done that has really helped the team tactically has been his timely substitutions. I've always credited him for that.
He makes the change at the right time.
At the right time. Frank Kessie coming in the game against Senegal. Right time. You look at the second half substitution in the Mali game. He realized that Uriye is hot-headed. He's on a yellow card. Let me take him out. Quickly took Uriye out. I think the one that he delayed, but that one, I don't fault him so much, was the Kosonu. He was just having a disaster. I don't know what a coach would have done at that point. Maybe try and quickly hook him out. But you would, as a coach, you would feel that, let me give it a bit of time for him to settle.
See if he
settles. But it just kept going on and on and on. That's one bit. So that's Singo coming on, Halle coming on, Adingra, the timing, some of these substitutions have been made. That's been a coach that is, although emotionally charged, but reading the game to know which substitution I should make at this point, and he's been spot on with most of the substitutions he's made so far.
Safo,
I think Indika, the AS Roma guy, he's not been given the praises enough. He's been the constant defender throughout, from their drubbing to their high times. He's been very good.
He's played all the games?
He's played all the games. So Indika, Seko Fofana, and Conan. And my guy, Diakite, even though he's not me. Because the forward of Ivory Coast keeps on changing. Match in, match out. Their front three always keeps on changing. But what I notice about this is that you can have quality. It's just dependent on who is using that quality.
I see.
You can have Kudus, you can have Enes Nyama, you can have whosoever it is. Once the person, it's like chess. Once the person playing the chess is not utilizing them well, once the person has these attacking qualities but wants to play defensive football, then you are not going to make the best out of the quality.
So effectively, player profile and coach's thinking must meet at a point.
Because as a coach, I would have probably preferred to play Jeremy Boga, because he's very good. But Jeremy Boga is barely seen, and I think the difference between the coach that was sacked, I keep on forgetting, Gasset. The difference between Gasset and Faye seems to know his players more than Gasset. I think Gasset is more reliant on big names, because Sangare is a big player for them. For him to drop Sangare, Peseiro, who is now in Hull City and his high days are over, it means he really knows the players more. And when we're in Cote d'Ivoire, my Ivorian friends were saying Gradel is old, so Gradel can play. Similar to how we are saying someone is old here, but you give Gradel the armband and he performs. He performs the tasks he's given. So I think a very big shout out to MS5. He's done a tremendous job.
All right, MS5 getting a lot of love and praise on the AFCON Daily Show on Citi TV. We'll take a very quick break. When we come back, we dive into drama. It was Amapiano versus Afrobeats in that game of Nigeria and South Africa. All that and more coming up after this break. This is the AFCON Daily Show, probably brought to us by BetPower. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is the AFCON Daily Show on Citi TV. My name is Nathan Kwao. The show is proudly brought to us by BetPower. My guests are still here. Kwame Bafo, Kwame Safo, and Edwin Kwakofi. They are still here. Let's get into the second semi-final, the one that had a lot of people talking because of all the things, all the politics, diplomacy, the banter, Amapiano versus Afrobeats. It was Nigeria versus South Africa for a place in the 2023 final of the AFCON. All right, and the lottery, not lottery, but when the wheel was spun, the Nigerians were the ones who emerged on the right-hand side. So South Africa are falling into the large pit of teams who win one shootout in a competition and go on to miss the second. They follow the likes of the Netherlands in 2014 and many other countries. Only two teams I can think of in recent history have broken that myth. Italy in the 2020 Euros, and then Argentina on their way to winning the 2022 World Cup. They won two shootouts.
Yeah, against the Netherlands,
and then France in the final. Guys, we'll get into the shootouts and the drama because I love shootouts and the drama. But just thoughts on the 120-minute encounter. It was quite engaging from start to finish.
It was a very good game. South Africa in the first half were dominant. I mean, Nigeria had a lot of the ball at some point, but if you talk of the team that created the most chances or the clearest of chances to win the game, it was South Africa. We've done an analysis of South Africa a lot more times, and the fact that they lacked strikers. They're able to work the ball to a certain point, and their naivety show the moment they get to up front. They get up front to execute a shot or get the ball at the back of the net. So I wasn't so surprised. I was watching. I think the first half analysis, and they were saying that we hope it doesn't become like the South Africa Mali game where they dominated and failed to score and then had Mali coming back to win that game. And clearly it was like that. Now in the second half, Nigeria felt that, okay, you've pained us. Let's find a way out. That was when they began to, feed Victor Osimhen more of the ball. Now, he took the game by himself, decided to make a moment out of it, and that was what led. Because at the point where he picked the ball from, and how he was able to maneuver himself to get into the box. I mean, that's genius stuff. That's a player who sees himself as a star man for the team, to be able to create moment where there isn't any, and that's how the game went. Now, the craziest moment came when Nigeria felt that they had gotten the second goal, forgetting that something had happened in the box of South Africa, of Nigeria, where a player had been clipped down, and that moment really changed the game. That was how VAR came in to change the game. So South Africa, patient in their build-up, trying to not rush it, not doing a lot more things, just building the ball up onto the into the Nigerian half, but lacking evidence. Mahopa really cost them in that game. Had a lot more chances, had many opportunities to be able to put the game to bed, but decided, not to take any of these chances. And that's a game of football. You can create these chances. You can be able to build up to that point, but the moment of truth comes when you're able to, execute these actions, and that's what.
And I like the point you made, and I think that more quality up front, and
that's the
probably the story is different.
I mean, we've known it, we've discussed it here, that South Africa's problem has been up front.
The finishing.
Very, very.
I guess they need to do a lot more and get better strikers from now, create better strikers in the PSL. So for Nigeria, what a performance. We've seen everybody I have on the show, the people I speak to, people say we see different sides of Nigeria. Did they take us into a new dimension yesterday?
Yes, absolutely. This is when everything is not working for them, because yesterday I was asking, Nigeria, una play, what's up? What's happening? Because first half, they were not themselves. I think South Africa dominated, and they were mostly on the back foot. But it just yet again shows the will and determination, because apparently when they went into the halftime, I think the team talk was very fiery. You are better than them, but nothing seems to be working. And there's one moment we are not even talking about. That's Ademola Lookman had a 1v1, decided to go around the goalkeeper. So as evidence, Makupa was not showing evidence for why he is a striker. Ademola Lookman was also missing. And Ademola Lookman is someone who has been highlighted. But yet again, that's what helps Nigeria is, yes, Osimhen might not be scoring, but he's coming up with off-the-ball movements and off-the-ball play, which shows that really this guy is a very good striker, making moments out of nothing, because Mvala didn't need to hack him down. He was going nowhere, but it's just the fear and how he would put himself in. He did the same thing against Cote d'Ivoire, created a penalty out of nothing. Yes, some see it as soft, but puts himself between the defender and the ball, creates that penalty. And these are the things you need going, because Nigeria had the better play most of the second half. Okay. They just didn't have that clear-cut chance, and he made something out of nothing. So one would think that once the pendulum has swifted back to Nigeria, they'll be able to maintain it. And they were maintaining, because if not for the VAR, they would have been 2 goals up. No. And I've never watched a tournament where there has been such a clean officiating like that before. Beautiful officiating, because you go back to the 120 minutes and Murphy is hacked down, and the question is it in the box? Is it not in the box? Like, what's happening? And I don't know, but this AFCON should be a study for English referees, Spanish referees, people who use VAR, that it's never about the machine, it's about who utilizes the machine. And VAR was used very well. But back to Nigeria, one thing I realized about them yesterday is that sometimes we as West Africans like to look down on ourselves, like we are just there for the vibes. But Nigeria proved to us that, yes, penalties are not a lottery. They did their research.
Okay.
Research throughout, figuring their players, and they took the opportunities when the momentum, because South Africa could have killed that game, and South Africa had the momentum. It was the ability to tell themselves that, yes, maybe the momentum is on South Africa's side, but we are still not out of this game. And Nigeria know they chop last, so you have to give them their props. You have to give them their props. They've been outstanding throughout. I think they've been the only team that has been so consistent ever since their second game, which they were tipped to lose against Cote d'Ivoire. After winning that game, they've been consistent throughout their play, and they deserve their props. And against South Africa yesterday, they showed different sides. They showed sides where how good they are off the ball, how good they are on the ball. They showed individual brilliance. They showed team brilliance. So they showed research. So Amadou Pinnick, as the Nigerian FA, will be happy. He doesn't need to go make promises anywhere that he wants to win the World Cup and AFCON. So, yeah, I think Nigeria, they were very good yesterday.
Interesting. So for Nigeria, they're about to play their 7th game. They've conceded only 2
goals, yes.
They've kept, 5?
4 clean sheets.
4 clean sheets. That's wonderful. Very wonderful. For a team that is very top-heavy, to navigate a competition where they don't need more than a goal to actually win. Cameroon was the only time they needed more than a goal, I believe, right? Yeah. So it's interesting. Look, Jose Peseiro will have his critics, but I think he's made a strong argument and has told everybody that in tournament football, we don't have to go and dazzle everybody. We just have to play well, find a way of doing it. And he's done that. 7 games. He's going to play the 7th game. I'm still very blown away by the profile of the team, but this very workman-like, almost professional performance.
I'm not surprised, actually. Even in the first game where they played 4 at the back, they created a lot of chances. They were very solid at the back. Mwabali barely made a save, bar the ball that went into the net. They felt that, okay, we drew that game. Let's be efficient. Let's try something else. So he went 3 at the back: Sam Ajayi, Calvin Bassey, Troost-Ekong, and then Sanusi, and then Ola Aina. Found a way to incorporate Iwobi and Onyenka in there. Then went with his attack. He has a way of building up. Now, what fascinates me is how they attack. I mean, you see Moses Simon and then forgotten the guy who plays on the right, Ademola Lookman, and then Victor Osimhen, and it's how they interchange in between the game. It's very difficult. Yes, Simon predominantly on the right, but it's between Osimhen and then Lookman, how they move in between. At some point, look at the goal that we analyzed the other time against Angola. Yeah. Where did Lookman come from? Right, made a run
from the right
after Osimhen had dragged. I mean, they've been showing the dynamism of their play as the tournament progresses. And Peseiro appears to me like the Jose we know. He takes his opponent, analyzes his opponent, and then fashion out a game plan. So you don't see Nigeria playing the same or using the same approach. They are always looking at the opposition that they are playing and then mapping out it. And that's how you do in tournament football. You don't go and
tournament football is max 7 games.
Absolutely.
Maximum 7 games.
So you don't go in and make a decision that, okay, I am a possessive whatever. So if it works for you, as it did for Spain in the World Cup some time back, fine. But coaches also have to.
But even that, Spain had to do different things in different games.
That's it. So he's been mapping out strategies for every game that he's been playing, and that's something that has worked for him. So I'm not so surprised. As you see, he realized what the South Africans were. They possess a lot. They are very patient in build-up, and the South African does that excellently. I mean, even under pressure, how they're able to weave their way out.
Yeah, it's your typical South African.
It was beautiful. I mean, you could see that. But Peseiro was like, just stay calm. The ball will come. We will have our moment. When we have our moment, we will know what to do. And there were points in the game where Nigeria could have won the game. Bar that penalty that came that switched everything, they could have won the game 2-0, done their work efficiently. I mean, that's how tournament football goes. And Peseiro has been fantastic so far with
Interesting.
that.
I'd love to see what the Nigerians are saying about Jose Peseiro now, a man they absolutely lambasted before the competition. That's Edwin Kwakofi still here. Edwin, you're on the touch. Your thoughts on this? I don't know whether... Did you expect the game to play out this way?
Yes, large points in the game played out exactly how I thought they would. I felt that South Africa were more comfortable in possession. And when I saw the way Nigeria lined up right at the start of the game, it showed me that they had actually thought about what South Africa were going to offer. But before the game, you spoke to a South African journalist who pointed out that Nigeria have been very, very vulnerable to pacey attacking players. Like Peseiro offered yesterday. So anytime he ran beyond the Nigerian defense, he was getting through. There was no one keeping an eye on him. So there were points where Makopa in the first half, especially in the first half, was playing behind Peseiro. So if the long ball comes through, they were aiming for him most of the time. He would head it on or he'd control it. Sometimes it went straight through to Peseiro. It was causing Nigeria a lot of problems in game. But eventually in the second half, a few of the changes helped. They managed to keep things tight at the back and started feeding Osimhen more to his feet. Previously, I think he spent too much time inside the box and they were aiming for him. All right, he's tough to deal with in the air. He's very good aerially. But when he has two centre-backs to deal with, it's a tough ask for anyone. Even then, he was getting his head on the ball, creating chances, and he got frustrated at a point for not taking those chances that usually he would have. And sometimes frustration helps, and as we'll see in these two clips, before we get to the penalty shootout. The first one is the move that leads to the penalty for Nigeria.
Yes.
So Osimhen has the ball. And over here, there should be... No, Osimhen gets the ball eventually. And when he does, over here, he goes back. His touch takes him back. And right here, there should be no danger at all for South Africa. In this position, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 players to Nigeria's 1, 2, 3, 4. 7-4. There's no danger right here. And I talk about Osimhen's frustration. He missed a few chances. Now he wants to prove that he wants to push Nigeria forward. He wants to do a lot of the things. So he wants to keep the ball and create something. That is why he stays on the ball. He holds it. That was a poor decision, by the way, for Osimhen to take on the ball and not release it to his teammates. He could have passed it back to his teammates right here, passed it even further back, just to relieve pressure, because there was nothing he could do. But then this is Osimhen we're talking about, a proper striker who can lead any line for any country. So he holds on to the ball, and he's under so much pressure. What you do here as a defender, you force him outside. You don't let him enter the box. And even more than that, you don't foul him while he's in the box. You don't attempt to challenge him because there's no danger right here. Even his teammates are reluctant to go forward because they realize he is in a cul-de-sac. There's nowhere for him to go. So the tackle from Mvala, who is coming out of the box, was very unnecessary. He's completely at fault for this move and clear penalty. There's no. If you concede a penalty in this area, in the center of the box, when you know the striker might cause a few problems, I can understand it. When you concede a penalty on the outside, the edges of the box, there's no excuse for it. There's no talking your way out of that. And Mvala almost cost South Africa in this situation. Conceded a penalty, which, of course, Troost-Ekong took. On the other side, we go to the penalty that South Africa got.
Talk about Osimhen. If you ask me, I think that sequence it's like a reminder to watchers of the competition that Osimhen has a lot to his game. You know, because we've seen a lot of hold the ball up, that kind of thing. But to actually play yourself into almost a very hopeless situation and decide that, you know what, I'm running at the back line. Who cares whatever happens? Yeah. If I'm fouled, I'm fouled. If they take it, they take it. But just the bravery to even do it and force South Africa into a very bad decision, I think is brilliant centre forward play. And if you're a young striker and you're watching this, just take note that sometimes, not all the time, sometimes a little bravery is good. Just get the ball, run, try and get your way, because somebody will panic. Just because you are Osimhen, it forces Mvala to make a decision. That's Osimhen. What if he takes a shot? What if I don't stop him? And then you stretch, commit a foul. That's it. One goal could have killed it. Because if this happens in the 93rd minute, it's game over. Yeah. You are done for. Edwin, you wanted to highlight the South African. And I think this has been my favorite piece of refereeing in the entire competition. I love this part so much.
It's a wonderful piece of refereeing. Not crumbling under pressure. And awarding the penalty when it should have been awarded. But we look at the move from here. Over here we have Peseiro. And he is in behind two Nigerian defenders who are facing the ball. These two Nigerian defenders.
Yes.
The pass has been made, but there's absolutely no way it should be getting to Peseiro because these two defenders are approaching the ball. They are right in front of Peseiro. If they hurry, they get to the ball before Peseiro. But this is the industry of the forwards. We've already seen Victor Osimhen in the Nigeria clip. Peseiro has been that for South Africa at this tournament. So he gets in between the two defenders because he anticipates. He anticipates, gets in between the two defenders, and gets a touch on the ball before he is kicked by the Nigerian defender. That is a defender who is on his heels and not on his toes. A defender who is reactionary and not who reacts to stuff. He doesn't anticipate things. Of course, Nigeria go on the attack. A very good counter-attack, by the way. Good pass on the outside to Lookman. And then he puts it in the box for Osimhen to tap it. There was joy for the Nigerians. I could see them celebrating in the stadium, thinking they had finally sealed.
Let me ask the guys here. How many of us suspected that it might be looked at?
I had no clue.
I saw it, but I thought it was a foul, not a penalty.
Okay, you thought maybe it was like a free kick.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so I immediately, and I thought maybe you see sometimes the sequence of play, if there are 2, 3, 4 sequence of play, it doesn't get looked at. But immediately the camera panned out, I just felt like maybe we have something here, but I thought it was a foul. Okay. A penalty, I didn't see a penalty coming. So I thought it would have been 1-0. It would have been chopped off for 1-0. But 1-1, I didn't see that coming.
I see. Kwame, you're saying you missed it completely.
I missed it completely. I thought, I was like, what was the referee going to look at? I felt so confused until it was the replay came. Oh, in fact, I thought when they started, deliberating, I had not seen the replay for the goal, so I thought they were going to look for an offside with the build up to the goal to just get the goal away. Don't know. Something had happened at the far end.
When the sequence was developing, I saw it. My first instinct was, that looks like a penalty. But okay, maybe it's a free kick.
Maybe it's a free kick.
And then, so as soon as I saw it again, I said,
and it's the fact that immediately you see it, you know that. And the referee takes the same, because I was like, hey, don't go and do anything, don't go and take a foul, it's a penalty.
But one thing that I noticed a lot from the South Africans was how they were able to pass in between the lines. And that's evidence of one of those situations there. Because see where Peseiro was. And go and watch the game again. They were just passing.
They were very good. They were just very good between the lines.
But the second half, the Nigerians noticed that. And that was when they pluck holes. So anytime someone is able to pass the ball through the lines for the first time, he checks back. And there are lots of men behind. So all they need to do is to send the ball back to the midfield. They have to go and recycle play all over again. And that's how the Nigerians
I feel South Africa have played very good football in this tournament. And with Mokoena, he's been one of them. I just feel like if they had a prolific striker, I think. And this when you look at Foster Lau, was it really worth it staying at Burnley than playing for your? Because if they had a Foster Lau, maybe some of the chances evidence Makopa was not Makopaing, he would probably be doing better at it because they just lack that. And Peseiro needs a veteran. He needs to be lashed. A veteran of that caliber.
Anyway, let's get back to you.
Yeah, so just wanted to point out, in case anyone was having any doubts whether there was a touch on the ball by the Nigerian player, you can clearly see Peseiro gets a touch on the ball first, and then his heel is clipped. So there's no doubt about this penalty at all. So we go to the shootout.
Yes, this is where lots of people are interested. So, of course, the context South Africa had won their shootout in the previous game
Yes.
against Cape Verde. Ronwen Williams, the hero,
Saved 4 penalties.
yeah, he was wearing red.
Yeah, he was wearing red.
This time
As he
around.
was
And that's
again
the,
today.
I've read the internal WhatsApp messages. Those spitting on Edwin will not tolerate
We're not
this
tolerating
man.
anything.
Things happen. Things can go wrong. They are just premises. Let's not do that.
And to add to your list of teams that won successive penalty shootouts, I think Egypt in the last
Yes,
AFCON,
AFCON,
they
yes, they
won a
kept
couple of shootouts before they lost
Until
Cote d'Ivoire.
the last
the
one.
final.
the one
So
in
So
the
they
final.
won Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, and lost to Senegal.
and
on
then
the
lost
So they beat two teams back
On
to back.
penalties.
Yes,
in
back
the
to back,
shootout.
and then lost
And
to
then they lost
Senegal.
that. And then
in the final.
ever since that one, they haven't won any shootouts
lost to
again.
Senegal
because they lost to Senegal
Yes.
once in the AFCON, once in the World Cup
World Cup
qualifiers,
qualifiers, yes.
and now DRC. And to think that before all of this, for 40 years,
years.
they hadn't lost a penalty shootout. Yeah, the catch-up principle, you know. Once,
The interesting one in the last shootout was that the hero, Abu Gabal, was the one who missed the last penalty against Congo.
And he was just being thrown away, just
He was
like
just
Rowan
being
Williams.
exactly.
Thrown away all over the
all right, anyway, let's get into the shootout.
So the first one for Murphy, and this is a very important thing. A lot of teams do not understand this, but if you have penalty takers and they can come on before the shootout, you bring them on when you can. Murphy came in for Victor Osimhen. I saw a few people complaining, why is Osimhen being taken off? He's Nigeria's most important player. Osimhen has proven, he scored some penalties, but he's proving very unreliable, very sketchy in his penalty technique. So a few times it's been saved. He's not Nigeria's penalty taker for that reason. That is why he was taking off. Murphy was brought on to take penalties. Kenneth Omeruo as well.
Yes.
A fantastic penalty taker, brought on specifically for penalties. And of course, I did mention that goalkeepers in red usually win in penalty shootouts. But I also said that teams that shoot first in the penalty shootout also oftentimes 60%
They have
of
a
the time
60% chance of winning.
they win the shootout. And Nigeria opted to shoot first in this shootout, Murphy taking the first shot. So we'll get to his efforts. Prior to this, in the previous shootouts, we saw how Ronwen Williams approached his penalty shootouts. He always moved, whether it was to the right or to the left. And this is where research and analysis comes in. The Nigerians obviously figured it out that this is a goalkeeper who can dives really early. So what do? They go straight down the middle for at least the first couple of shots. So he goes down the middle, and he scores. Murphy puts Nigeria 1-0 up. A very good penalty. The next to take a penalty was Mokoena for South Africa. Of course, Mokoena had scored South Africa's penalty right before extra time. So you'd expect him to, have an advantage in this situation. But stats told me that a player who scores in the normal time, if a player scores a penalty, they are likely to score 90% of the time. However, when it gets to a shootout where the pressure increases, they know that if they miss, their team goes out, it drops all the way to 60%. So Mokoena faced that. And unfortunately, that was not the best penalty. It was not too far to the right, not too far in the corner, at a comfortable height for the goalkeeper, not too high. So Bali made a good save in that instance. The next penalty was for Nigeria, Kenneth Omeruo, another player who had been brought on specifically for penalties. And he has a very good record in terms of the shootouts. I've seen him score a few. He hardly ever misses. And you can look at the composure that he takes straight to Ronwen Williams' right through the goalkeeper out. So that's a confident penalty taker, one you should always have in these situations. Next penalty for South Africa, Mayambela. Mayambela for South Africa.
He had a very interesting facial expression.
not the most confident facial expression.
Like, I'm going to kill you.
Oh, he's going to. Okay. So Mayambela steps forward, and puts it up and to the left of Nwabili. Of course, you can say that it's a very good penalty. It still looks like a comfortable height for the goalkeeper, but it was far enough into the corner that it made it very difficult for Nwabali to get to it. So, decent penalty. If you are hitting your penalties, make sure that if it's not high enough, it's far into the corner, that it doesn't hit the post, but at least it gets out of the drive of the goalkeeper. So at this stage, Ronwen Williams had faced 2 penalties. He had been beaten by both. Mm-hmm. Now, Ola Aina steps up to the plates, and he has a clear idea of where he's going. However, the way he hits the ball was horrendous. And I'd like us to go back a little bit. Let's slow it down so we see exactly how he made contact with the ball. He doesn't hit it with his side foot. It hits more of the edge of his boot, which lifts the ball over the bar. So take a look at how he hits it. Doesn't exactly hit it with his side foot, but hits right at the top of his foot. Mm-hmm. So it just lifts it over the bar. If you are a player and you hit the ball like that, it's going to go high. It's going to be lifted, and it ends up over the bar. It puts South Africa back into the game because of that miss. Our next penalty taker, Makopa, Safo's great friend, Evidence Makopa, steps out to the plate. This is a chance for him to put South Africa back into this game, put them level, and into the penalty shootout. He steps out to the plate. He has one scored penalty. Seems like 100% record, which will go down to 50 very soon, because this is a horrible penalty from Makopa. Again, it's not far into the corner, at a very comfortable height for the goalkeeper to save, and he makes the right decision. Once a penalty goes in a certain direction, and it's a good height for the goalkeeper, he is going to save it once he moves in that direction. Of course, if Nwabali had dived in the other direction, that would have been a good penalty. But if the goalkeeper dives in the direction you are taking your penalty, it's going to be saved. And that is a pretty bad penalty from Evidence Makopa. Now, Troost-Ekong, another player who are taking a penalty in 90 minutes. In that one, he had gone down the middle. So, obviously, there's some precedent. Even in the previous game, the one he scored earlier in the competition against Ivory Coast. Against Ivory Coast.
He went down the middle.
He went down sort of down the middle. As a goalkeeper, if you see this, the player has prize. He's going to go down the middle. You expect something similar, don't you? However, no. He goes down the right-hand side. And if you see Ronwen Williams' movement, he hesitates. He stays in the middle for as long as possible, hoping that the ball will come straight at him. So we are going to take a look at a slowed-up version of the penalty kick. And you can see that Williams hesitates for as much as possible, stays in the middle for as much as possible before the shot is taken. So he reacts to the shot, but it's already past him and there's nothing he can do. So there's good anticipation from the goalkeeper because he knows exactly where the penalty taker usually goes. But then the penalty taker also knows probably the tricks of the game, knows that the goalkeeper probably expects him to go straight down the middle and changes his spot, goes high, goes wide, and there's no chance of the goalkeeper reacting quickly enough. Now we go to Mvala. Yet another fantastic penalty taker in the shootout. Usually scores. There's hardly any problem with him. He comes on. It was a terrible mistake to concede a penalty in mid-game, but this was a chance to right his wrongs, ensure that South Africa stayed in the competition. So, great penalty taker. And just like Makopa before him, he goes to the goalkeeper's right at a really comfortable height if the goalkeeper had dived in that direction. But fortunately for him, Nwabali moves the other way, so he scores, no problem for South Africa. And now this is a chance for Nigeria to win it And a player who had been brought on mid-game, Kelechi Iheanacho. Everyone will know him from his Man City and Leicester days. Comes from Nigeria. Very good penalty taker, as you can see. One miss. Left-footed. Lefties usually go for the bottom right. He decides to go for this angle, which is more difficult for a lefty to get right. But once you do, he hits the post and it goes in. Very difficult. Almost missed it, but still managed to put the ball at the back of the net. And Nigeria win the penalty shootout because of proper research on the goalkeeper they were facing and some really good takers who knew exactly what they were doing in the penalty box.
Guys, interesting thoughts there. Initial comments on the shootout. How many of us expected it to go this way?
I wasn't surprised because if you watch the penalty shootouts between Cape Verde and South Africa, the obvious difference was Williams. So Nigeria would know that if we work on Williams, we have a chance because the South Africans are clearly not very good penalty takers. And it's played out exactly how you'd expect it to play. If you make it very difficult for Williams to save and we score ours, we'll be through. And that's exactly what happened. Edwin has done a very fantastic analysis of the levels with which the South Africans were playing their penalties. It was so clear. A bit of elevation, and if it's going to the left or the right, it's not going too far wide. So it's at a level that the goalkeeper could save. Just make a move and you just have your hand to the ball. And that's how, even Mvala, the penalty that he played, if Stanley Nwabali had gone to that direction, he would have easily saved it. I mean, if you play your penalties this way, I'm not too sure what you would be doing. Because the best penalties I've seen has a bit of elevation, targeting the very corners. That's what Ola Aina tried to do. I mean, target the far right, far left corner. It was the left, the left corner. But the technique he used actually, saw the ball go very high up the pitch, and that's how it is. So they did their research, they did their analysis. See, let's make it difficult for Rowan Williams to save the penalty, and let's score our penalty because definitely the South Africans will miss, and that's exactly what the Nigerians did in that penalty shootout.
Two things I picked from it. South Africa didn't learn from their past shootout. We spoke about this, that they were against Cape Verde. Their kickers were bad. They were poor. You see, we've heard stories about Jordan Ayew and after training, players practicing their penalty. Yeah. I don't think these people practice their penalty. They were expecting Williams to pull up something. Because truth of the matter is, I believe if the penalty had gone a longer distance, Nigeria would have lost. Because I still feel like Williams was not figuring out what was happening to him. They had clearly worked on him. So the longer it goes, the longer he understands what's happening and he can make saves. Second thing is, Nigerians didn't study Nwabali.
The South Africans.
I want someone you guys to tell me something you studied about Stanley Nwabali.
Ooh, okay.
He was equally a fast diver. Yeah. He equally dived. Yes. He never stayed in the middle. Yes. So if Makopa had decided to go down the middle, he would have scored. If Mokoena decided to go down the middle, he would have scored. Because just like Rowan Williams, and everybody knew Rowan Williams is an early diver, and the Nigerians targeted the middle. If the South Africans had done the same thing, at least two of their penalties would have saved. And I don't want to even blame Stanley Mokoena a lot because he's a first penalty taker. These things do happen. We've seen a lot of people miss their first kicks and gone ahead to win the penalty. I expected someone like Makopa, being the third penalty kicker, to have figured out what was going on, because you see, the blessing with coming on later is you study the goalkeepers, you see them move. There was not a single time Nwabali stayed in the middle. He was just diving, and I expected South Africa to have gone down the middle just like they were doing to Rowan Williams. And for Rowan Williams, I don't blame him so much. I think the spotlight, my South Africans, when Lehakwe was saying, Williams, can you do us this favor like he did us the last time? Like, there was just too much on him, and you could see that the Nigerians were changing their spot kick from where they like to play it. We commended Williams for staying in the middle against Cape Verde. He was not moving. He was so sure of wherever he was going that if you try to feint him, he's still in the middle. You check the Omeruo penalty, Omeruo feinted him, and senior man had already gone. So I just felt like what helped him against the Cape Verde game, it had changed. The Nigerians had figured it out, and the Nigerians were spot on during that penalty. And I've expected that after Ola Aina had missed that penalty, South Africa would have capitalized on it. And I don't know what evidence was doing with that kick.
Evidence, Makoko.
I don't.
The penalties were really poor. The penalties were not good.
I mean, it was at the same elevated height.
And you know what would be very interesting? Nigeria Cote d'Ivoire going to a penalty shootout. Because these are teams who have both played penalty shootouts.
Yeah,
Cote d'Ivoire played a penalty shootout spot on.
Yes.
5 out of 5 with that penalty shootout. And the amount of data, the amount of research that will go into it. And if it gets to the penalty, you have Sterling Wabali, who is very good with saving penalties. Fofana is not that good with
Fofana,
who is not really.
He saved one.
He saved one
during the shootout against Senegal, he was not that good.
But you see, that game gave us some very excellent penalties.
Exactly. So if
even the Senegal, the one the
Senegal
Cote d'Ivoire,
even
it
the
had
one
to
they
hit
missed
the post to go out.
So you have good kickers on the Ivorian side. You have a good goalkeeper. For the Nigerians, you have good kickers, but you know that they have the tendency of missing. So if you are a researcher or you are whoever, I expect both teams in their training that after the training drills, we practice shootouts. After the training drills, we practice shootouts. If you'd have to bring on this goalkeeper who was crying at the last AFCON after he dropped the ball, he's the reason why they had to get Fofana to come in, because there was not really much confidence in him there. That's Ivory Coast's second choice goalkeeper. Yeah. If he is better at penalties, and you have to bring him on, just like how the Dutch was doing with Tim Krul and Olsen, better do that, because we've seen that this AFCON has the tendency of traveling the long distance. So they should put in that way, because it's not a lottery anymore. It's a science. Yeah. It's a science. And I feel like if South Africa had practiced their kicks rather than depending on their goalkeeper, because it's like the job is mostly on the kicker. The goalkeeper just has to pull up a heroics, but mostly the focus is on you, the kicker. I think the South Africans forgot that. And they were thinking, because they were happy when they got to the penalty, they were happy.
Hoping that Williams would
but Nigeria had figured them out.
Just like I asked from the previous game, who would be more hurt by this result?
South Africa, of course. Definitely. I mean, you've played so well to get to this point, kept clean sheets, the penalty. I mean, they played very well. They played some excellent football so far. Even yesterday, under pressure, they were building from the back, playing in between their lines, trying to create chances. But I think the person they should be cursing the most is I've forgotten his name, the right back, Mudau.
The number 20?
Oh, God. That was some
that
opportunity.
That chance
it was just,
you would have dreams about
it was just there. Just take your time.
Because Mokona, the free kick, I mean, it was
Mwabali
parries it back.
Just to you. The commentator was like, he was thinking of going to do the celebration rather than finishing the ball at that point.
That was
I mean, just take your time and just connect the ball into the net.
But to be fair to him, were there not mitigating circumstances?
Yeah, I think the ball bounced.
His body
I
don't know if my
posture.
producers have that clip, though. I don't know. Maybe they should put that on.
He could just taking his time, connecting.
But see, these are the moments. Yes. You see, you don't get this is it. Because yes, Ademola Lookman had missed and all of that, but this was like the last second.
Moment. And that would have been a dagger in the heart.
They said he's the Kolomwani of South Africa. You put that in, and then my guy with the red boots can just come out and do the celebration with you. You get that kind of thing.
So that's it. I think it's a missed opportunity for them.
Yeah.
How would we describe South Africa? Because they were in a group with
Mali, Tunisia
and Namibia. How should we look from our perspective? I don't know how they will feel about that. Safi, let me start up with you. How do we as a success? Do you think it's been a successful run?
It's a success. I before coming. Even the South Africans didn't have much hope in this Bafana side. But to be fair, they've never had much hope in the Bafana side. If you watch this Trevor Noah special, they never have hope in the Bafana side. But the thing is, to me, it's not about stats, it's about the way they play together. I think if they continue with this same crop of players and maybe get a prolific striker, because I think they are just prolific forwards away from being a very big side to reckon with, because Tembazwane, Mokoena, Peseiro, Makupa, even the back line, Mvala just had bad moments, but you see, that Sundown crop, so far as that Sundown crop continue to dictate the pace of African football, they continue to challenge the Alalis and they continue to challenge the Wedads. They would be, because from them comes a different crop, comes strikers, comes newer generation. Then there are the South Africans who are also trying to ply their trade outside. Keep this crop, because it's clear they can locate themselves. They can break the lines of teams. They can pass. They play very beautiful football. If you keep this crop, I don't know if they are going to still go on with Hugo Bruce, but I think they should go on with Hugo Bruce.
Yeah, that was my second question. Maybe
if they still go on with him, I think. And the funny thing is, the blessing of this AFCON is the next AFCON is just this next January. It's not really far off. So you are still being given the second chances. As to whether some countries will take their second chances, I don't know. But for teams like South Africa, I feel like they can work on it. This is a very promising team. If there's ever been a time whereby South Africa can win the AFCON since 1996, I think this is the time. This is really the time.
Kwame, Hugo Bruce. Okay, well, first of all, your own rating of South Africa, and whether in the second question, Hugo Bruce, does he stay? Does he leave?
It's been a huge success for them. I mean, the last time they were in the semi-final was in 2000.
Beat Ghana to get to the semi-final.
Yeah, you know, so it's obviously a huge step. Safo rightly said the next AFCON is just next year. So a lot of these teams would have, had the tournament experience, would have understood how it feels like to get to this level. Mm-hmm. Having a taste of it gives you that impetus to want to, get to that level again. So yes, disappointing not to get to the final, but it's been a huge success for them. For Hugo Bruce, it's still old. I think he's the oldest manager in the tournament, around 70 years. The next AFCON is just some few.
So you think it would be wise if
it would be wise? Just stay with him. Definitely they would analyze and know exactly where the problem is, and I think it's clear they are not scoring enough goals, and it's becoming a huge issue for them. So I believe they have a very good crop. Just build on that, and then let's see how the next AFCON will be for them. All
right, we'll see how the South Africans will be welcomed. But first, they need to play DRC in the 3rd and 4th place game on Saturday. We are wrapping it up. But before we leave, though, shout-outs to our colleague Yao Frimpong. Shout-outs to Yao Frimpong. Yesterday on our show, he correctly predicted this game. He called it. He said 1-1 in regulation time and extra time. Nigeria to win on penalties. And the Nigerians did win on penalties after the game ended 1-1. Edwin, I don't know what you...
I'm sure his WhatsApp groups, people are giving him credit.
Unlike you.
Unlike WhatsApp group where Edwin is getting roasted for his goalkeeper penalty theories. I don't know why people are even going after
photosynthesis, man.
Edwin, don't mind. I'm in your corner. I absolutely believe that some of the things were beyond you.
So, y'all should be giving us the next bet power odds so that we win something from there, because he seems to be really good at that.
Yeah. I see. Guys, so of course, our next show is tomorrow. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about the final and 3rd place game. If I don't get to speak to any of you guys again, your overall thoughts of the AFCON? There are just 2 games left.
It's been a very well-organized tournament. I've had the opportunity to go see some games myself, so I really enjoyed the organization. The country was buzzing. Everywhere you go, they were in their orange or white shirts. They were very welcoming. The football we've seen, we've had a record number of goals in this tournament.
Where are we now in terms of the goal count?
I think 120 something. I'm just a bit above that. 121 or so. So it tells you that the technical quality of the game in the African game is growing. At first, it was extremely physical. very difficult for teams to break teams down and get goals and all of that. So things have improved. We hope to see a better AFCON, a better AFCON, but Ivory Coast have served. It's served.
Safo, just quickly ask me.
This is an AFCON that personally will stick and stay with me for a long time, because just like Kwame, I also got to experience the games, and we've had beautiful goals. We've had teams and stars born out of this tournament you didn't expect coming. Jelson Dala, Insue, Mokwena, Mabululu. There's just been so much to talk about. There's never been a dull moment. I think I have not seen 1980s AFCON or 1990s AFCON but ever since I started watching the African Cup of Nations, I think this is the best AFCON I have seen ever since watching. So, I mean, Saturday will give the cherry on the top and may the best team win. Okay, all right. Whatever, or whoever that best team is, well, we wish you the very best ahead of the final. This has been another episode of the AFCON Daily Show on Citi TV, show brought to us by Bet Power. My name is Nathan Cote. My guest, Edwin Kwakofi, Kwame Safo, and Kwame Bafo. We'll catch you tomorrow as we preview the final. Who wins the 2023 AFCON? We'll find out more. Who finishes third? Who finishes fourth? We'll discuss all of that on tomorrow's episode. Do join us. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care and bye-bye.